Now?
Hi.
Yes.
We're just testing our mic. Just bear with us. Hi, everyone. Hare Krishna. I apologize if there's an echo in my voice. Give me a minute. So we're now going to begin our first day study of the Bhagavad Gita, and we have a few people who have joined us here in person. Thank you for coming all the way. And everyone who is online, thank you for registering for this course. And I'm sure you all have had some kind of curiosity in knowing about the Bhagavad Gita, and that's why you're here. So welcome to the 18 days Bhagavad Gita course. Right. So today we're going to deal with the first chapter. But before I proceed telling anything further, I'd like to ask for your humble blessings and your prayers so that whatever I say is in accordance with Lord Krishna's message. And I try to deliver the message that Lord Krishna had given to Arjuna to all of you. And we thank the UOD Hindu Students Core Committee and the Tayside Hindu Cultural and Community Center for always supporting us in all our endeavors. And the National Hindu Students Foundation, Edinburgh Hindu Society have also supported us to promote this event. So we thank them as well. So to begin the class today, I'd first like to pray to the Guru Parampara so that they bless us and we can begin the session. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. So before starting, I also would like to mention that my guru from ISKCON Bangalore, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, had instructed me to do this course in Dundee, and I'm doing this under his instructions and his inspiration. So I hope you all benefit from this course. I had taken this course 3 years back during COVID. It was a challenging time for everyone, and being a healthcare professional, it was way beyond what we expected. So at that time, I found hope in the Bhagavad Gita, and I hope you all also get a similar hope out of doing this course. All right. So today we are starting with the first chapter. And I just want you to confirm on the chat if you are able to see my screen changing. Is my screen changing? Okay, perfect. Right. So also we dedicate this whole course to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Right. So if you look at the slide, this is an overview of the first chapter. Right. One second. Okay, I think I'm back on slide 1 due to some reason. Apologies. Yes. This is an overview of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Just a second. So it starts, there is a beautiful acronym that's given to this chapter, which is doubt. All right. All kinds of learning begins with curiosity, begins with doubt. And the first chapter also begins with a doubt, right? So we will see what all this means, what Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, an ominous result, uncertainty, whatever is given on the slide, we'll see what it means, right? So before we proceed further, I'm going to ask you to imagine, just a second. Right. Apologies for the noise. We have in-person attendees here, so they're also joining from their phone, and there's some echo. Apologies for that. Right. Okay, hi. We have some in-person attendees coming in. Hi. All right. So we are just starting with the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You've entered at the perfect time. Right. So first chapter actually starts with doubt. I'm sure you all would have heard about the Mahabharata, the epic. Can somebody tell me what the Mahabharata is actually about? What was the war about? So this is a question for everyone. If anyone that's online wants to answer, please raise your hands so that I can allow you to unmute yourself, or probably you could put it in the chat. Soumi is asking if we could get access to the slides. Yes. I'll try to provide access to the summary slide of each chapter. Yeah. It was about Dharma. Okay, great. Priya says it was about Dharma Yuddha. Nishant says the rule over kingdom. Right, right. Raghavendra says feeling of entitlement and rights. Perfect. You're very close. So the Mahabharata war, Dharma Yuddha. Okay, Manu also says Dharma Yuddha. Right. So what were the two parties that were fighting in the Mahabharata war? Who were the two opposing parties in the Mahabharata war? Okay, I think you all heard the answer here. Chaitra says Kaurava and Pandavas. Yes, perfect. So there were these two parties that were fighting, Kauravas and Pandavas. They both belonged to a single dynasty called the Kuru dynasty. And there were two brothers, there were three brothers in the dynasty, right? Dhritarashtra and Pandu were the foremost in that. But there was a problem here. Although Dhritarashtra was the oldest son in the dynasty and he was supposed to overtake the throne, I mean, he was the official legal hire for the throne of the dynasty. But there was a problem. What was the issue? Does anybody know? Why was Dhritarashtra not considered for being throned? Ah, okay, perfect. A lot of people who know the answers here. Nishant says blind. Kartike also says. Surabhi, right. You're perfectly right. So Dhritarashtra was born blind. And there's a long story behind why that happened. So that is for you to research. I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. So Dhritarashtra was blind, and that would possibly deter, his ability to rule the kingdom. As a result, the kingdom was supposed to be given to his younger brother, Pandu. And Pandu had two wives and 5 children. So they all are very famous. I'm sure you all know who the Pandavas are. Does anybody want to answer? Who are the Pandavas? The kids? So we have 2 little kids here. Okay. You can feel free to put it in the chat box. Who are the Pandavas? Who are the 5 Pandavas? Their names?
I know 2 of them.
Okay.
Arjun and Bhim.
Arjun and Bhim. Oh, perfect. Arjun and Bhim is 2 of them. Okay, so Surabhi says Dharmaraj, Arjun, Bhim, Nakul, and Sahadev. Dharmaraj is the other name of Yudhishthira. So among the Pandavas, Yudhishthira was the oldest brother, and you had successively Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev. Perfect. And you're all answering the right order. I must give it to you. Okay, great. So these were the Pandavas. And Dhritarashtra had 100 children with his wife Gandhari. Imagine 100 children. So they were called the Kauravas. And what happened here was Pandu, unfortunately, the Pandavas' father, King Pandu, unfortunately met with his death. And later, Kunti and her 5 children, the Pandavas, were left orphaned. Now, Dhritarashtra was throned as the king, and it was his duty to take care of the Pandavas and their mother Kunti as well, because now they were orphaned. Kunti was widowed. But unfortunately, Kunti and Pandavas did not receive the kind of support that they should have received. And, they had to face a lot of troubles. Not just that, there was always a competition between the 100 Kaurava children and the 5 Pandava children right from childhood. Okay, there was jealousy, there was some kind of, in Hindi we say nok joke. There was always this small fights, apparently small fights that were happening. But Dhritarashtra, despite seeing these kind of clashes between the kids of the Kuru dynasty, did not interfere. So the war began to grow older as the children grew older, right? So when the time came, Kunti had left to the jungle to stay in a Rishi's ashram with the Pandavas for quite a long time. And when she came back, the Pandavas demanded that they get their share of the land from the dynasty that they rightfully owned. But the chief or the eldest child among the Kauravas, he refused to give even a, pinpoint tip amount of land to the Pandavas. And that's when the war of the Mahabharata began, right? Who was the eldest son among the Kauravas? Can someone tell me on the chat box? And it's open for the people here as well. Okay. I'm asking very simple questions for some of the audience here. Oh, I don't see anything in the chat box. Okay. I see Duryo. Yes, I see Duryodhana now. Okay, perfect. Yes. Duryodhana was the eldest son, and he was known to have wicked ways of handling things. And he had done a lot of things to the Pandavas during their childhood. So you can go and read up about that, or if someone's really interested, you can watch the epic Mahabharata. Right. So this is how the war began. And now I want you to imagine yourself in a huge battlefield, okay, where there are 21,870 chariots, and there are people inside the chariot. There are innumerable soldiers. There are 21,870 elephants. And every soldier, around 192,000 soldiers were there with their horses. Imagine yourself being in this battlefield, and you are in your chariot, and you go to the center of the battlefield just to see how the military and all the soldiers are arranged, and you see that on the other side, on the enemy side whom you're supposed to fight, you find the children that you grew up with, your friends, your childhood friends, your teachers, your mentors, the elderly people in your family, including somebody who is like a father figure or a grandfather figure. And you have to go in the middle of the battlefield, and you're expected to fight against them. I think we'll need a minute to grasp that, isn't it? Arjuna was in the same situation during the Mahabharata war, that is, that was believed to be have happened in 1000 BCE. So Arjuna was in this situation, and what kind of emotions would you feel if somebody were to ask you, to fight against your own family, childhood friends, grandfathers and father figures, your mentors? How would you feel? Although you're fighting for your own rightful situation, something that you were supposed to get, you're fighting for that. But you have to fight against your own friends and family. What do you think? What would you feel? I'd like to know from you all, what would be your feelings here? Saumi says on the chat box, guilt. I agree. Yes. We'll see what Arjuna felt. Divya says confusion. Yes. What about our in-person participants? What do you think? How would you feel?
Two kind of emotion.
It's a
Two kind of emotion.
two kinds of emotions. Okay. Priya says she would feel two kinds of emotions, and what will be those two emotions?
First, I will feel like they are my family, and how would I fight with them? And the other feeling, if I will not fight with them, I may lose the kingdom. Those two minds will be mixed.
Okay, Priya says she would have two mindsets. She says she'll have to fight against her family and she would not feel great about that. But she would also feel that she's fighting for her rightful moral thing. That's something that she should get. So she would have two minds. Shachi says confusion, dilemma, thousands of questions, self-doubt. And I think we completely agree with Shachi, because this is exactly what happened with Arjuna. He was drowning in confusion, dilemma, thousands of questions. She's perfectly accurate in the order also. And he ended up in self-doubt. Why am I here? What am I doing? Am I even supposed to fight this war? These were the questions. Yes, Auntie, you want to say something about it? Okay. Raghavendra says sadness. So the situation, probably this is because we're imagining this, that we're limiting it to sadness. What Arjuna was feeling while he was in the middle of that battlefield was very close to depression and anxiety, which most of us face these days without even being on a battlefield, because it's all about our mental conflict, right? So the Mahabharata war, in a sense, is, a lesson for us in terms of the mental conflicts that we have on a daily basis and how we handle those mental conflicts. And we'll see what Arjuna does and how Lord Krishna teaches him to handle these emotions in the further chapters, right? But in today's chapter, we'll see what exactly Arjuna experienced. We just saw what we would feel, but we need to see what Arjuna experienced. And let us go see what happens there. In the very first shloka, we're now going to, since we are reading the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas, I think it's worthwhile studying a few shlokas, right? The people who are here in person, you can join the Zoom meeting so that you can see the slides, possibly, but do not connect to audio so that we don't have an echo, right? So I'd like to read the first shloka, which is on your screen. Can someone confirm in the chat box if you are able to see this shloka?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, Shachi, Chaitra. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to that slide. Right. So the first shloka goes like, Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. Okay. So there's a very interesting thing that's happening here. Okay. Now Dhritarashtra was blind, right? We told you Dhritarashtra was blind, and he was the father of the Kauravas. And he is sitting in his kingdom of Hastinapura while the battle is happening in a place called Kurukshetra, right? And he's asking one of his secretaries. He had a secretary who was blessed, or let's say he was extraordinarily blessed. Okay, his name was Sanjaya. And imagine what superpower Sanjaya had. We have
we can
Moksha answering.
can see anything, like you can see a face, you can see what's going on there.
Perfect. So Sanjaya had, this superpower of being able to see what was happening in the Kurukshetra battlefield while he was seated in Hastinapura with King Dhritarashtra. Isn't this amazing? So Dhritarashtra is now curious of what's happening between his sons, that is the Kauravas and the Pandavas, in the Kurukshetra war field. So he asks Sanjaya, "O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage of Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?" So this is like a live streaming happening, all right? It's not like something that already happened. So they're all assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And, here in Hastinapura, Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra live what exactly is happening on that battlefield, like an ongoing commentary. So Dhritarashtra asks what's going on. Right. So now there are two different mindsets that we have to look at here, Dhritarashtra's and Duryodhana's. Now, Dhritarashtra was the father of the Kauravas. He was not just the father of the Kauravas now, but because the Pandavas were orphaned, he is essentially responsible for the Pandavas as well. But when he speaks to Sanjaya, what does he say? What are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing? So he's already shown the sense of belongingness that he has for the Pandavas. Right? So that is Dhritarashtra's mindset. He wants to know the well-being of only the Kauravas. He's not really bothering about what's happening with the 5 Pandavas. And imagine this fight. There are 5 Pandavas and 100 Kauravas with their whole set of armies on either side. Right? But anyway, the Pandavas had already proven their prowess, their strength. So everybody knew how strong the Pandavas were, although they were just 5. Now, what is Duryodhana's mindset? Right, the chief of the Kauravas, Duryodhana. Let's see what he was thinking about on the battlefield. We saw what Arjun would think. Let's see what Duryodhana thinks. Sorry. Yes. I already told you about Dhritarashtra's mindset, isn't it? That should be on your slide now. Yes. Now, Dhritarashtra was not just being partial towards the Kauravas. He was also doubtful and fearful. Now, why would he be doubtful and fearful? Why would Dhritarashtra be doubtful and fearful? Does anyone want to take a guess? It's open. It's an open question for everyone in-house and online as well. Please use the chat box. Why was Dhritarashtra doubtful? Okay. Krishna. Okay. Kartikeya says Pandavas had Krishna. That's a point. Now, Pandavas had Krishna, and Krishna was not an ordinary person. So obviously Dhritarashtra was scared. Now my children are fighting, there are 100 and they have this huge army, but still Krishna is on the Pandavas side. What would happen to my kids? I'm not really sure. Plus, we read in the previous translation that Kurukshetra was a place of pilgrimage. So there had been several wars that had happened before the Mahabharata war in Kurukshetra. And Kurukshetra was such a place that only the person on the path of righteousness or dharma would win in the Kurukshetra battlefield. So Dhritarashtra had malicious intentions from before. He was very partial towards the Kauravas, right? So he was wondering that now they're fighting in the Kurukshetra battlefield. And will my children be successful, right? And he was scared, basically, Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana also had a similar mindset. He was doubtful about the outcome of the holy place, Dhritarashtra. That's what I just mentioned, partial to his own sons. Duryodhana was having this inner fear because Lord Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, but he tried to maintain his stature in diplomacy and tried to appear that he is quite strong in front of everyone. Okay, but he did have this inner fear. So he says, now Duryodhana says in the 3rd shloka of the 1st chapter to his teacher Dronacharya, "O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada." So Drishtadyumna was Draupadi's brother, and he was the, commanding chief or Senapati of the Pandava army. So Duryodhana now sees the army and tells, his teacher, Dronacharya, "Look, now everyone was the disciple of Dronacharya, Kauravas, Pandavas, and Drishtadyumna. Now he says, look, you have given, such good education to everyone. Look at the way they've arranged their army. This shows his little bit of inner fear that they're also arranged perfectly, and he's worried about the outcome of the war, right? And he goes to Dronacharya and appeals to everyone in the Kaurava army that, our grandfather Bhishma, he is heading our army, and he's an old person. So we have to show our valor and strength and support him in taking this war ahead, right? So he says, why did he go and speak to Dronacharya, his teacher? He's trying to point out to his teacher that you made a mistake teaching these people how to fight a war. Right? Now they're standing against us. But there were also a lot of ominous signs that Duryodhana could observe, right? We are actually running a little short of time. So in the next 5 minutes, the meeting would end. All right. So I'll prompt you 1 minute before that. Please do rejoin and we'll have a short quiz. We are going to make note of who replies to the quiz questions first. And we're going to have a small prize at the end of the 18-day course to whoever is giving correct answers fastest. So this is like fastest finger first. Okay. So join back for the quiz. Now the signs of victory for the Pandavas were, first thing, Kurukshetra was a religious place, a place of righteousness, a place of pilgrimage. So anybody who has malicious intentions, who is not in the favor of dharma, will not be victorious in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, right? And Krishna's personal presence was with the Pandavas. Obviously, now the Pandavas become more powerful because of the presence of Lord Krishna himself, right? And everyone in the battlefield, imagine so many soldiers, elephants, horses, all the soldiers and the captains in each of the battalion starts blowing their conch shell, trumpets, drums, everything at the same time. There's a huge uproar in the battlefield, right? First, Bhishma, who is the commander-in-chief of the Kauravas, blows his conch shell, okay? And in response to that, everyone else, Krishna, Arjuna, and everyone in the Pandava army blows their conch shells. Then both sides together blow their conch shells. Imagine the kind of vibration and sound that would have been on the battlefield, right? Hearing this sound, the Pandavas were invigorated. They were, energized. But the Kauravas, on the other hand, felt a kind of fear tremble down their spine, that there's something that's going to go wrong with that sound. So that was also a sign of victory for the Pandavas. And then on the chariot that Arjun was seated on, that's a very special chariot. That chariot was gifted by the Lord of Fire, Agnidev, and there was a flag marked with the presence of Lord Hanuman. And in our scriptures, it's said that wherever Lord Hanuman is present, on whichever side, that side is bound to be victorious. So that was also a sign of victory for the Pandavas, all right? And Pandavas had the fortune of having Lord Krishna on their side. So Lord Krishna is none other than Narayan. Who's the wife of Lord Narayan? Moksha is our brilliant answerer here. So Lakshmi Devi is the wife of Lord Narayan. Okay, Shachi is also amazing. Divya, perfect. Kartikeya, yes, perfect. So Lakshmi Devi is called the goddess of fortune. It's not just she keeps pouring wealth. Basically, she's the goddess of fortune. All good fortune comes in wherever she's present. Now, wherever Narayana, her husband, goes, Lakshmi Devi goes along with him. So now, because Lord Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, the fortune, good fortune, Lakshmi Devi was also on that side of, the armies. Obviously, Pandavas had good fortune. And yeah, as I mentioned, Agni Deva's chariot. And this chariot was used in several wars before. And whoever fought with this chariot had always been victorious. These were all impending signs of victory for the Pandavas. Right? Okay, our meeting is going to end in a minute. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing and I want all of you to join back through the same link, right? We will see what Arjuna felt and how he deals with his emotions in the next 10 minutes. And then there's a 5-minute short quiz and question answer sessions, right? Okay, we do have 3 minutes. Sorry, so we can continue. Okay, I'll let you know 1 minute before the end. I'm sorry. Right. So we saw Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana's mindset, right? What Duryodhana was feeling, what are the signs of victory? And I'm going to give you a takeaway. There's going to be a question from the signs of victory. So make note, whoever is interested. All right. So everyone blew their conch shells, like I mentioned to you, right? After hearing the sound, the Kauravas had their hearts shattered, while the Pandavas had more confidence. They became more confident after hearing that sound of the conch shells, right? There's a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita in the chapter 18. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanurdharaha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. So wherever there is Krishna's presence, who is the master of all mystics, and whenever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer. Arjuna, by the way, was the best archer in the whole world at that time, right? He was the supreme archer. There will certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Lord, right? Sanjaya, who is telling this to Dhritarashtra, is saying this shloka, wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjuna, there is no possibility of failure. There is always victory, right? Okay. Now coming back to Arjuna's mindset, what is Arjuna experiencing, right? When the son of Kunti, Arjuna saw all these different grades of friends, relatives, family, grandfather figures, mentors in the enemy battalion. He was confused. He had thousands of questions, like you all said, but he became so overwhelmed with compassion, right? The humanity struck in him, the compassion came in him that how can I fight this war? It is my family that I'm fighting. It's my family that would be killed. It's my friends that would be killed, right? And he says something to Lord Krishna, right? So now we'll see what he says to Lord Krishna. The meeting is going to end here. All of you can join back and we'll continue and see what happens.